Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. Hello to the PWTorch Fireside Chat for July 14th, 2022. I'm PWTorch Assistant Editor Zack Heydorn with PWTorch Contributor Tyler Sage. Tyler, pleasure, man. Almost thought we had a technical difficulty here, but we don't.
Yes. I don't know. What was that? It's 4:10. So yeah, about 15 minutes of you trying to make your microphone work. We don't know why you were messing up our whole technical thing, and then I realized that I didn't turn the volume up on my headset. So very fun time. So
it's
I'm a mile away from the camera, so I'm going to move up a little bit too. So here we go.
No, you're all good, and hey, that kind of stuff happens when you go live. You know what I mean? Like that keeps you on edge.
Thank God we didn't just hit live and then just have the first 50 minutes of content being me and you messing around with
with I don't know that people would like to watch that, although it was pretty funny because I was about to just lose my mind here.
Yeah.
Hello to Hazan and to Zach in the chat. Thanks for joining us, guys. A lot of good talking points to get to, a lot of good news to get to. I want to get to Dynamite. But dude, man, are you ready for some blood and guts on Monday Night Raw?
Yeah, it's coming. Vince is off CEO. I mean, obviously there's a lot to the story, but yeah, very exciting. Is it? Do you have the date in front of you exactly? I don't want to get it wrong. I don't.
Monday.
Is it Monday? Okay, yeah. I thought it was after this week. It's TV-14, right?
TV-14. Yeah. So if you missed the news on PWTorch.com and Andrew from the Mat Men podcast reporting that Monday Night Raw is slated to drop the PG rating and have a TV-14 rating starting this Monday for Raw. No indication on SmackDown though. Like that's a Fox, that's broadcast. My guess is that probably won't change. But like, at least on my Twitter timeline, which is the official, of course, the discourse seems to be, nothing's gonna change. Nothing's gonna, it's gonna be what it is, and that's it. Product's still gonna be bad. Is that the perspective you're taking on this?
Let me just make sure because I don't have your exact timeline, but are they saying like it's going to be the same bad booking with the same wrestling everyone 7 times before the pay-per-view, but they say shit in the middle of it? Or do they think it's going to be the exact same show? What's the mindset there? Would you say?
I'd say that's up for debate.
Okay.
I gotta go ask the timeline because we haven't got down to that quite level of a level.
Okay.
It's just like, it's going to be the same. And so,
gotcha.
And I think you hit on a point there. And I think I know where you're going with it. And let me guess. I'll just guess. I'll try to get into this Tyler Sage brain here for a minute. And you are about to say, hey, if you're expecting booking to change, and if you're expecting wrestlers not to wrestle the same people, 7 times in 6 days, that's going to be the same. But yes, we might get a couple shits in there every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely the way to approach it Monday, right? But I think this is a positive sign that maybe in 6-12 months when Cody's rocking the world title, at least the WWE title or whatever that title's on Monday, I think you definitely see him going through a flaming table. You could, see stuff like that. I mean, I would say it's overall positive. When you asked what I want to talk about tonight, I think I sent you about 3 exclamation points on the on the TV-14 stuff. So I think any change I think potentially could make it better. I mean, anytime you give the product the ability to go the extra couple inches it needs to go to tell a story. Obviously, you don't want every story just be like everyone bleeding 24/7. We've seen AEW do it too much and then pull away and then kind of bring it back and all that stuff. And that's got its pros and cons. But just having the ability to have, Seth Rollins do something even more diabolical as a heel, or have Kevin Owens just be Kevin Owens a little bit more, right? Like, I mean, I know it's not on SmackDown per se too, but I think it is a harbinger for good potential, and that there's at least a understanding that you can't do the same thing for a decade straight and hope to not lose 15% of the audience year over year or whatever it is this year. So yeah, I think it's a positive from that perspective that they're willing to change things up, and it could make Raw feel a lot different than SmackDown, which I think would be very positive. Sorry, I took it from you.
Yeah, you took it. It's like you read my mind. Like, I think it's a shrewd move for all the reasons that you said. Definitely. Like I think it just, if nothing else, if everything else stays the same, but there's a little more of an edge to the presentation, or just more kind of edgy storylines, and not, as Zach points out here, not bra and panties matches, but just more serious storylines that you maybe can't do on a TV PG show. That's going to help. But I think differentiating it from SmackDown, though, is one of the best benefits, because right now those two shows are like, yes, one's blue and one's red, but the way things are shot, the way things are kind of scheduled out, the presentation, how they do the backstage stuff, how they even just like go to commercial breaks, all so similar. And if you can freshen that up a little bit, that would help. I kind of, though, come from the place of, so you're right, and I think for those reasons it is obviously a great move. I think, though, that you should be able to put on like a very smart and well-booked wrestling show, whether it's PG or TV-14. And so I don't think that the change in rating is going to all of a sudden snap WWE out of what they do from that perspective. And I think if that's the expectation, I think people will be disappointed, because WWE still does what they do, and they're still going to just, if they need to get to X place in a story and they don't feel like taking the time to go to take the steps there, they're still going to go. I don't think this rating changes some of the overall issues that WWE booking can have. And so I guess I just say that because if that's the expectation, then there'll be disappointment. But if the expectation is, hey, just a fresh feel to a show, different from Friday, I think that will deliver for viewers.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't even have to come out and say it, but maybe even the third hour of Raw is the TV-14 hour, right? It's like PG at the start, and then all of a sudden when they get the hour change where you get the watermark of USA and the rating, maybe it changes suddenly, and then you're like, all right, we're in Raw After Dark or something like that, and
Raw Underground, is that what
yeah, well, yeah, maybe not have Shane McMahon just sweating in the distance.
No, please no.
Yeah, you have someone from XT premieres and their name's Katie Vick. Something crazy like that happens, and you tell them, I'm just kidding. Don't do that storyline again. But that's the bad TV-14. I don't even know if it was TV-14. Was it TVM at one point? Probably not. I don't know
if they had that back in the day.
Yeah, it's probably just like with movies. It was either PG or it was R, right? There's no 13 in the middle, so it's probably in there. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and I think definitely it's not going to change overnight over this Monday, but yeah, we'll see. I'm more bullish on it. Obviously, I'm an adult and I like adult content, so that's good for me. But yeah, they got to thread the needle as a company with all the kids in the audience too. If there's like, I don't know, 6,000 people in the live audience, and let's say 1,500 are kids, that's probably a low estimate. I don't know. I don't have that. I'm not WrestleNomics here, but you really don't want to be doing too much crazy stuff for that many kids and stuff. But hey, I don't know. Who cares, right? I don't know.
Well, we got a lot of comments on this to get to,
yeah.
So let's get to some of them. Stephen is here saying, hey, Stephen, first of all, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you. Is Brock due back on Raw again anytime soon? Wouldn't mind seeing him messing up some people with some blood. Yeah, like, I don't think he is booked for Raw anytime soon. I think he's still, obviously what he's doing with Roman is on SmackDown, and there's only a couple weeks left. So, Stephen, I'm going to say no, he's not. I don't know that Brock cares about the TVPG rating to begin with, though.
Yeah.
So.
Is the last time he made someone bleed when he did those elbows to Randy, and was it like SummerSlam like 17.
Oh no, I
18?
think he had to have had Roman bleeding at some point.
Did he? Okay.
After
I'm just
that.
trying to think. I mean, that was so like insane of a finish that
Oh man,
like Brock literally could have, if they obviously he wasn't trying to kill him, but like you could easily kill a guy that way. It was just insane.
totally. Like that.
Yeah.
That was nuts. That was just nuts.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like that's what I think you have to be careful with here, though, because it's one thing to tell more adult storylines, but if the reason to go TV-14, at least in my opinion,
mm-hmm.
is to just be able to do something like that every single week, that's going to have diminishing returns really, really quick. Because
mm-hmm.
for better or worse, that stands out because you never saw it to that point, and you've never seen it since.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hope they're not going that direction where it's just like, well, we want to bleed every week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a good reason to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see what else we got here. Zach, this is where we get into some issues. Oh, Zach, Vince is going to figure out a way to get Alexa Bliss's top ripped off in the first 2 weeks of TV-14. I mean, maybe 2 months ago, Vince. I don't know if he'd be pulling any of that right now with what he has going on. I mean, like, there's a million reasons that's inappropriate and not to do that. I don't think it would drive a good of a number. But let's just say Vince is just analyzing this from a personal perspective, and that's it. It's really, I think that would, not that he cares what people think, but man, that'd be, the hubris there would be next level, even for Vince.
I don't know. I wouldn't put anything past him. Is what I would say. I wouldn't bet on it. But if there's even like a slight, maybe it gets ripped off. Not saying it's gonna happen exactly, but like it would probably cut away quickly, and you wouldn't see anything. But it would definitely be implied of like whatever. So I think it's all on the table, and who knows? This could just be a power play by Vince to make the show more edgy as he's going through all this stuff, and as he knows, like Vince knows the skeletons and where the bodies are buried, right? He did it, and he knows more. He knows that more is coming, so maybe he is just like kind of wanting to do every fart joke that he can on the way out or something. So I think that could always be a possibility too, if he has the full say in this, which I think is an important question to ask as well. I don't know if you can come back to that if you want, but if you had to put this on a person, would it be Vince only, or is this like a broader decision within the company?
I mean, I think the answer is kind of like, my gut instinct is to say the answer is kind of one and the same, like, because Vince has the final say on that kind of thing. So I think, I mean, I guess, like, look, it's $1 billion company, worldwide company. I don't know that this is a decision that you just make, in a week period, because there's a lot to consider. I mean, there's licensing partnerships to consider. There's television partnerships to consider. There's all sort advertisers. I mean, there's all sorts of different, like, your charitable organizations that they work with, all sorts of different things to consider and to factor in to a decision like this one. And so I don't know that you could, I don't know that this is, I would not pin this on, hey, these allegations came out, so now Vince is trying to make like a change, as Zahn is alluding to here. I don't think that is what's happening. It's just, I think there's just too much involved for that to be on a whim type choice. I wonder if there's value, or what do you think? Is there value in diversifying the product from a ratings perspective, like from a television rights perspective, whereas you've got the PG product that you can go ahead and market, and then there's a TV-14 product that you can go ahead and market it in a certain way, and maybe diversifying kind of unlocks more dollars, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about this last week with the whole Vince scandal and the ongoing scandal of rights coming up in the near term, right? I mean, they're both over 50% complete, I think, or at least one is. I think maybe at least the Fox one is. Yeah, I mean, that gives you an opportunity to sell it around, and USA is going to want to retain stuff for a majority of the time, I would say. But you're not going to be on NBC, proper with a PG-14 or a TV-14 rating. Right. But if there's a streamer, if Amazon, if Apple, if Netflix, you know, all these companies are kind of getting into like wanting to throw way too much money around, overpay stuff. I mean, other sports things going on right now. You've got the MLS just signed a $2.5 billion deal with Apple to have basically every game on there, which is like way over anyone else would have done because they want to get in the space. The Big Ten football rights mainly are up, and Amazon's been and Apple have both been in those negotiations as well. So I could see either of them wanting to get in there or Netflix to get some more content. And yeah, this is a good way to diversify. And if the rating maintains because of this or goes up a little bit or doesn't lose a ton, it could be something that fits a portfolio. So yeah, I think that's a good point by you.
What do you think about, like, if they have, edgier stories, let's take out like the TNA bra and panty stuff and just kind of treat that for what it is. Yeah, I know we do know his definition of edgy, Zach. You're right about that for sure. But if you take that out of it and like take it at face value, hey, they're just going to go with these edgier stories, edgier characters, whatever. Is there value in that from a ratings perspective? Like, do you think there's any element of, man, we see what kind of like hot audiences that AEW is bringing in. We see what, that they do good numbers from an adult's, 1849 perspective in that younger demo with some of the content that they're running with. Maybe there's an opportunity for us, like, or because if they're not going to grow in that space, I don't know what an edgier product would do for you.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, I assume they have better internal grasp on those issues than you and I do, but
not better than me. No way.
I would say, like, one thing I've always been interested in, and there's not really good data about it, is the kind of normal trajectory for a WWE fan, let's say. I mean, this is, what's the word? Word by mouth. What's the word I'm looking for? Anecdotal, right? I know myself, I have this journey. A lot of people have this journey where basically you're a kid, you like wrestling. This is a male perspective, I should say. Mm-hmm. You're a kid, you like it, and then you kind of get to like middle school, high school, and it's like really lame, and you're not really allowed to be open that you like wrestling, or you just flat out stop watching it, and then you kind of get back into it in your 20s sometime as an adult. So I don't know if you had that same journey. That's my journey. But it's always interesting, like, how do you retain that 20 something or that, late teens to get them back into wrestling? And is this a way to kind of square that circle? That could be a key demo to bring back. And is AEW getting that person, getting that lapsed fan that liked, even if you want to retain at the 50 plus, right? I assume, like Eric, who does stuff on the Torch here, right? He was totally lapsed as an example from wrestling in New Japan, and AEW got him back. And I assume he was a big WWF fan back in the day. I mean, he was a columnist for the Torch back in the 90s. So, it's all of that. Is this a way to try and get lapsed fans? Because maybe they think they can't, like, they're doing everything they can to get new people that never liked wrestling. This is a good way to get people who are a little bit more lapsed, and AEW does well with that category. And they want to do the same and, try and get to 2 million themselves on Raw to compete and double up AEW to be that. Because I wonder when, again, this is probably more homework for us to do, but the AEW deal was extended when they moved to TBS. Right. And I think 2024 is what Khan has said. So, like, which one comes up first? If Monday goes and then AEW is available, like, I'd love to see if there's like a preferred standing between the two, or will they use that to, will they use AEW's TV package to even up their own? So all that's very interesting. So yeah.
Super interesting. And I mean, you hit on a couple interesting things. Like, one, that process of like bringing back fans that maybe they were fans when they were 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, and then dropped off, started high school, like, and maybe WWE does see like a gap of fans there within some data that says, man, all right, we got to appeal to this group because we know that they're familiar with what goes on, and they're familiar with wrestling, but they're not here right now. So what will bring them here? That's really interesting to digest and break down. The TV rights deal. I mean, it is going to be wild when that gets renegotiated. And the thing of it is, like, the television landscape and the streaming landscape is ever changing. And last time WWE was in contract negotiations, like, they were kind of like in the driver's seat, because you had, regular TV, cable TV, network TV that wanted to do whatever they could to like drive ratings, and so live sports was really valuable, and WWE as a 52-week product, very valuable. You just don't know when that's going to go away, though. Like, you don't know when that money is really not going to be there anymore, because the networks aren't getting they're not reaping the benefit of what that brings. And then you factor in on top of that, the streaming world is now working to secure rights to live content. That could, so in one scenario, you could be getting a contract far less than what they had, but the streaming avenue, like you said, what was it, a couple $1 billion for MLS? Like, I got to think that like WWE would be close to that. I mean, they have to have higher ratings right now than MLS.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I would tell you, I'm pretty in on the Big Ten football thing. Obviously, I'm in Ohio, so that's like a big deal around here.
Yes.
But like, so on that front, the Big Ten added USC and UCLA to sweeten their deal. But basically, each school per year is going to get about $100 million. So that's 16. Wow. So that's $1.6 billion a year is what the projected contract is going to be for Big Ten football, just for per year. And the number that a lot of TV executives are looking for, per like premier football game is over 4 million. So if you take that and you have you have 12 weeks in a season, you're trying to hit that number 12 times, a number of times.
4 million, 12.
Yeah, 12 times. Maybe ideally you want to get like a noon and like a 3:30 and both have them over 4. So you have like the whole day. You can just like, just like the NFL, right? The 1, the 4:30, the late, those are all, over 10 million usually. But that's what executives are looking for in that particular deal per the reporting. So if you can have something that gives you 2 million on average or 1.5 million, whatever, 52 times, like, I don't think the money is going to be down. I think wrestling and sports, and to a lesser extent, award shows, very lesser extent, but any live event is valuable, and everything else is basically not valuable, right? That's kind of the zero-sum game to look at here. And I think both companies are going to get a ton of money. I think the streaming influence helps this next deal for both be huge. Like always, 5 years from now, who knows what this is going to look like? I doubt many people will have a cable box or whatever that everyone will be streaming. You could be streaming through your local cable provider, right, and whatnot. But yeah, I just think that they're so valuable. People watch them live and don't tape and record. All this stuff's been said, but I think wrestling, even at $1 million is super, super, super valuable. So
it'll be interesting to see. And I think, we'll know soon enough, like what that change in rating, is kind of shooting towards, or its purpose.
Yeah.
Because like I said, there's a ton to factor in. I mean, there's a ton. It's a $1 billion company, so there's $1 billion reasons to decide one way or the other.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see. And there's a couple notes in the chat we'll get to here real quick. Like one in regards to Cody, he posted kind of a cryptic message on social media with just kind of, I think it was like a winky emoji or something like that, or a thumbs up emoji, something like that. But something, because Cody's got, he bleeds and he goes through fire tables. He's got that kind of reputation. I think Cody would have played by the rules regardless, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I also read, it's not in the chat right now, but I also read some discourse on, hey, like, MJF is out there. Do we want to sign MJF and put him in a TV PG environment? Mm-hmm. I don't think you make this change for one star, but hey, maybe you do.
Yeah, I mean, and Cody's obviously tight with him, and I think it's more and more real the less that you see of MJF, and we'll see about that. But the other thing is, like, I've just a question: is Cody like tight with Nick Khan? Do we know that? Because like I could see Cody being pretty calculating, and he might be trying to get that that lofty post McMahon Triple H is going to book the territory bit. And like, imagine if like a year ago, you're like, hey, Vince is out, Cody's like running creative for WWE. You'd be like, all right, what are the odds on that? Like 1,000,000 to 1, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if Cody's winking about this, if he has any part of this, he could be already power broken, behind the scenes. If he's tight with Nick Khan, who did his deal? Maybe Khan did his deal, so just something to think about.
It is. And I mean, Cody knows how to play the game. Like, he knows how to play the game. I'll leave it at that.
Pun intended, I hope.
Unintended. But when I tell people that story later, it'll be definitely intended.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, though? I mean, like, he knows the business. I think he can play his cards pretty well. And so, yeah, I don't know what kind of backstage angling he's doing. I don't have any news on that, but I have to assume it's going on. Interesting question from Dr. Ross here. Who on the Raw roster, would benefit most from a change to a TV-14 rating?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking active,
active.
I saw in the chat, I think Owens and Riddle are good possibilities. I also think Sami Zayn. I mean, it depends on what you want to do with his character, but I think all three of those guys, at least from a match standpoint, are very open to pretty insane matches. And then, I think Theory could be a little more edgy as a character. So you go if you have any more. I don't want to take all of yours.
You just keep stealing all my points. I could just mute myself. Or maybe you could just mute.
I mean, if Ronda goes heel, if she's going to stick around, I think she could benefit from being a little more intense and not have to worry about that. But I don't know. We'll see. Just like I said, I've been bullish, but again, you got to think like there's going to be a script written, and then like how intense can you make a pre-written script? Like the Attitude Era did not have a script, and it felt natural because it wasn't natural only because they were blowing up limos and doing other stuff that that about. The CEO was just because he dropped the N word, that was edgy, but I don't think we're anything like that. But
but not good, right?
No, not good at all. But it was So just go ahead. If you have anybody.
Theory is the one that I for sure. Like, I think that I just think that there is an edge there. It seems like there's a bit of an edge, like waiting to come out. And so I think that could help him. It may make him. It may hurt him. And real quick about the point about the point you're making about, hey, some of this could be great and some of it could be awful. Like, to your point about the scripting, the scripting is super important in an environment like this. Because I don't think the scripts are going away. So it's like, are the people that are writing, are they up for that? And does it sound like, does it come out not really lame, or not that you're trying too hard, because I think that can happen too, where it's like, oh yeah, TV-14 now, let's really like soup it up. And you still have to tell good stories, you still have to build good characters, you still have to have booking that makes sense, you still need that, TV-14 or not. So anything else, man, on this comment?
I thought I saw the intergender stuff. I want to talk about that. If you can pull that up, that's up on the chat. But yeah, I don't think so. But who knows? Like down the line, you never know. And if you have the right person, if you have Ronda destroying somebody, I think that works. See, that's not really a TV rating thing. You can do an intergender match with a G rating if you could get that with physical confrontation. But that's more down the line in the future if you really feel like you need to compete and there's some ability to do that. I think it more would be to put over a very strong woman over, a James Ellsworth type or something like that. But, I'm a huge fan of it, but I think intergender only being on the indies is good for the indie space too, right? Personally. So it's what differentiates a lot of companies versus like the big companies. So that's my thought.
And I think in WWE and even in AEW too, like, I think you would want to have a good reason to have that match, to have a match like that. Whether it's not so much like Ronda Rousey versus James Ellsworth, but like if you're going to try to do a legit, intergender match program, feud, and what have you, I think you like WWE in particular, given just the kind of company they are and the partners that they have. I think they would need to have some sort of backbone of a story to justify like putting that out there on TV, because it's gonna create controversy for sure.
For sure.
And I think if you're just like, well, if you treat it like an intergender match on the indies where it's happening and that's it, I think you have less to you have less to like kind of put your hat on as far as like, well, this is why we want to do it. But if you've got this long-term story and the woman's going to go over, I think you can make a better case, I guess. That way.
Yeah, and most intergender matches totally break kayfabe, which would be a vast majority of people's issue with it. So I understand that too. Yeah. Oh yeah, Dr. Ross. I don't know, hardcore title. So I mean, Mick Foley just signed his Legends deal, right? He did. Yes, he did. You never know. Just keep that in mind.
24/7 hardcore title.
Yeah, I mean, definitely you could combine it. If you could get a funny bit, someone like R-Truth could definitely get a lot of those McMahon, potty humor jokes in. And so I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them to do it. I would say it's a slight favorite to happen. I wouldn't put it past them. I guess my hope with all this is that the edge comes with story, and the edge comes with characters, and not, hey, let's get a thumbtack spot in every night. Mm-hmm. Because I think as fun as that can be to watch, and hey, I like a thumbtack spot like the rest of them. Its effectiveness would really, really go downhill quick, I think, in WWE ecosystem, because there's just so much content. And so, how do you stay fresh if you're doing that regularly? And so I hope they kind of pick their spots, even though they're able to every week. Yeah, I agree. Man, that's a good story, man. Like we've had a couple weeks in a row here of being able to kick this show off with some, with more news to talk about than just what'd you think of Dynamite last night? Yeah. What was Monday Night Raw? And we're two WWEs in a row, so that's good. We're probably pretty even on our coverage of the two major companies. So that's good. Yeah, I think we are. I definitely think we are. Let's move to Dynamite though, because I thought it was a pretty fun show, Fighter Fest. Some big matches on the show, but a big title change at the end. And to me, one that I thought could happen, but with the business on the table potentially, just thought it wouldn't. Just because you have the perfect scenario for Young Bucks versus FTR for all the tag team gold. And politically, maybe they couldn't make it work, but it's not a knock against Swerve and Keith Lee. It just, I don't know why the Young Bucks keep kind of positioning themselves not as the best tag team in AEW. And those belts signify it. And right now, you can make the argument that the Ring of Honor titles actually mean more because they're on the waist of FTR. And look, I spent 30 seconds here talking about it, and you can tie yourself up into a pretzel trying to digest what's going on. I like Swerve and Keith Lee. I liked the match last night a lot. I thought it was a hell of a match. I thought, it was like an AEW style match. But the booking has me just a little furrowing my brow a little bit. I don't know what's at stake. What's afoot here. Yeah. So first of all, I loved last night's episode. I thought it was. It's hard to say in the grand scheme of what are we at, like 200 episodes of Dynamite at this point, or 180, somewhere in that range. Close to. It had to be top like 5. I mean, just from the match standpoint, I just really, really enjoyed the show. But I think the issue that you have here and this is an issue, I agree with you. I think it's more of the like kind of rigid long-term booking that Tony Khan has in mind for a lot of things, because I think this proves almost certainly that the Young Bucks were not supposed to be champions. It was probably supposed to be Matt and Jeff Hardy, with Jeff, having them have one more run, and things fell apart. I think I have my timeline right? Because that was supposed to be, they were supposed to get a title shot, and then that. So yeah, they were in a triple. Well,
Yes, they were in a triple threat match with Jurassic Express, the triple threat ladder match. But the Young Bucks weren't champions at that time.
Correct, but didn't they win it from Jurassic Express? And that because they were going to tell this Christian story no matter what, so they had to get the belts off of them.
Right.
So that's what this tells me is like there was not like that's not the Young Bucks story for the next 6 months. So they were transitional champions to get Christian to do his thing with Jungle Boy, and then they took a couple weeks to figure out which team was going to get that run and go to at least All Out with the belts. So as I die here, sorry.
Easy there, easy.
I'm very excited about it, obviously. So I think that is, the main issue with what you are not liking, and Tony Khan having a bigger plan for them. Who knows when Kenny's back? Who knows when Cole's back? I think that who knows when any of Red Dragon are back? I don't think that's really part of it here, but it was that, which I agree is an issue, and I agree the FTR are the most over tag team. I mean, when the Bucks set up this match, the crowd was chanting for FTR to be the team added to this, and Dax even tweeted like, "Hey, we hear you, thanks." So that is an issue, but I think overall, in the grand scheme of the tight box that we're working with Tony Khan, just like if Vince is in the same spot, right? Like, hey, I don't like the booking on this WWE thing, but the match is good and I'm going to give this a shot. It's kind of the same aspect I'm taking with this here. And I think it does elevate Swerve and Keith Lee. I'm glad they kind of got past the little BS of them breaking apart. And I think they could be, I think them and FTR is a pretty awesome match too, if they get to that point at All Out. So I'm more open-minded. I'm not saying you're not open-minded, but I understand and I agree. I think that's the cause of it. And I think that's just Tony Khan having long-term, like, here's my Bucks idea through the end of the year, and this doesn't really work for me, so I got to get it off of them. And that's why we're going to have this random triple threat match for no reason. To main event. So,
good. It's a good point. And I think you have to look at it through that lens for sure. And so it's good to bring it up because that obviously matters, booking plans. But I still think, but fundamentally though, let's take it from that perspective. Then you've got this great tag team in the Young Bucks that aren't positioned as like the best tag team on your show with any of the tag team titles that are on the show on a week-to-week basis. I still would like them to be the anchors of that division. I don't know what they have coming. So if there's a big story that comes down the pipe, okay. But even to date though, they've been kind of involved in some stuff and they've had some tremendous matches without question. But I still would like to see them kind of anchor out that division or FTR anchor out that division. But it seems like both of your top tag teams in AEW aren't in the picture for the AEW tag team titles. And I'm just not sure where I'm at with that.
So I have a question for you as relates to that with the Bucks.
Shoot.
Do you think it's 100% certain that they are going to get re-signed through this year? Because their contract's up at the beginning of the year, right? Because they got extended this year.
Right.
So do you think that's 100% that they are re-signed for like at least a year, multi-year deal once January 1st hits?
I think
if you're Tony Khan, do you think that's 100% likelihood?
Yeah, in some capacity. I don't know that maybe they would kind of back off as far as like dates, or maybe they want freedom to work more dates elsewhere. But 100%. Like I don't see the same value in them for like WWE that I did Cody and that I do MJF and Wardlow and some other guys. I think they fit here really nicely, and I think that if you don't work there, you're probably not going to get what you want in WWE, and then you just have the independent scene, which they've been there, done that, and can still pretty much go there if they want. So I do think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's likely they'll get re-signed. I think they might not be VPs. I don't know what that contract looks like. I just keep an eye on it, right? Because I think that kind of went under the radar of them getting. They had that, let's say like in sports you have a team option or a player option, right? And they had a team option, but the fact that they still, as far as we know, have not been extended beyond that point, I think it says a lot. And, they're not at every date. They do a lot of video packages in the back. They, if you're Tony Khan, you got a lot going on. You probably want them to do a lot of what you're asking for. So, no knowledge here. It just seems like, if I put myself in the shoes and I'm running this company, I'm probably re-signing the Young Bucks. I'm definitely not paying them top tier money. And I love the Bucks, unless they're going to, be at every show and be more prominent and whatnot. So just like you heard it may hot take here first, but like I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if they were like not part of AEW at the turn of the year. And I think some of that might do with this. I think it would be a bad thing for AEW to not have them as a part of it after losing Cody too. But I just feel like there's definitely a shift on who like Tony Khan in this firm role has like are his guys, and I just don't know if the Bucks are still those guys to him. And I think that is important. And I think with FDR, that angle is like obviously he wants them to build out Ring of Honor and make them feel like a brand, but that's very fraught as well. So I agree with any counterpoint there as well.
So I'm with you. Like, and Tracy, thanks for joining us on your drive home. Drive safe. Appreciate it. It's kind of like two questions. Like, I think that they will definitely resign, but I'm with you. I would not be paying them, what, like a big money. Like I wouldn't. And it's not even because of less dates. I would factor in too, but again, they're constantly like not around things that are the most important things on your show. I don't think they carry, for whatever reason, either they're not like kind of putting their foot forward and going, hey, I want this, or Tony Khan is like, how many times do I need to see a Young Bucks match, right? I don't know what he's saying, but it does seem like their value is diminished a bit with the other talent that are there and with what they're willing to do to like prioritize themselves within the AEW ecosystem. Because there's weeks where like you don't see a Young Bucks match, and I don't think that personally, I don't think that the show suffers all that much if they're not on. MJF though, like I do feel that there a little bit, where it's like, man, yeah, MJF, you'd wish if he was on the show last night. And last night was a really good show, but if he was on the show, it'd be like, wow, yeah, that's what a great show that was. He's got like that tangible value, I think, and the Young Bucks is just not as hot as it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I would say like the most tangible value that the Young Bucks have to, if I'm Tony Khan, is they're good for a super banger of a match every pay-per-view. And I don't know if some people buy the show just for that, but like whoever they're up against, you're going to get an awesome match. Beyond that, there's not like a super ton of value in my mind. But
Steven, you're going to get Tyler all riled up here about the trios titles and more championships.
They do need more titles. That's a funny comment below. They don't. I'm just saying. I'm reading Steven's copy. If you're not on the chat, that's like his next two things. Yeah, I mean, I think that's hopefully that's a joke, Steven. But
well, trios titles have been rumored, but I hope they're not waiting for that. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, Tony Khan basically said he's not going to do it till Kenny's back because they're important to Kenny. So, I mean, that's happening. If Kenny doesn't retire, like is lightly floated out there, which is kind of crazy to see. Which I don't think he will. Hopefully not. But and that's all. That's obviously like that's kind of how I feel. The way that Tony Khan views them right now too is like, hey, you can have the trios title, and I mean that's a step above the All Atlantic, which is being defended with like a GoPro was like filming that match that we saw on Dynamite. It was insane.
That was true, man.
Yeah, anyway,
God.
so I don't, not to tangent, but I was like, could you devalue this thing any further? And I'm like totally not even that kind of guy. But I was like, this is like, anyway. But yeah, keep moving. Yeah, you can go with
there. Yeah, Frank's like, I'm questioning whether the Bucks like being on weekly television, and it's like, you do kind of because. And I don't know either that they're like, maybe you're finding out that like, is their stick like is it applicable to to weekly television, because you're very much seeing like the same. You see a lot of the same stuff. You see a lot of the same like high spots, like creative differences, but like that it's there for sure. And in the independent world, you're essentially fresh a lot of the time because it can be a fresh audience, it's a fresh town, and here you've got that kind of episodic nature, and so I think like there could be something to that on both ends, where it's like maybe they don't like it, and maybe the audience that has been consistently around 1 million for 3 years is kind of getting over it, perhaps.
I mean, their kind of bits are that they're booked the same way Jade Cargill is booked, essentially, right? Like, they are backstage a lot. They don't do promos in the ring. I mean, Jade does a couple more with Stokely now in the ring, but I mean, it's like belittling someone that they're talking to, right? Whether it be Tony Schiavone or Brandon Cutler, and it kind of doesn't go anywhere. And that's kind of been their main idea, besides the way they dress as heels, which is better than when they were faces. Right. Yeah, I think it shows that, like, yes, they would rather do the PWG, come in, have a hot match, be the Bucks, kind of do the in-ring heel stuff, grab the mic, be mean to them, all that stuff, as opposed to working through that character on TV. And, some people are meant for that, some aren't. So that just happens to be kind of where they are, I would say. So, yeah, I agree completely. You kind of know what you're getting with the Bucks. That's why I asked the question of, like, I don't think it's going to happen. Just like everyone out there, be mentally prepared. If you see some report like, hey, the Bucks are free agents, see you at PWG or whatever, they're taking on Johnny Wrestling at GCW, something like that. So Johnny Game Changer. So
it kind of brings up a whole nother conversation, and maybe we can like kind of table this for next week, because I definitely want to put some thought into it. But like, okay, we're gonna be through 3 years in to AEW. Who are the talents on the roster that are going to get, like, they're going to get the big money deal from Tony Khan because of what they're going to do, not because of what they've already done. Like, who are those talents? Like, is it Jade Cargill? I would argue, obviously, that. Is it Wardlow? Sure. But I think it'd be fun to kind of go through the list and go, all right, like, hey, this person was with the company from the very beginning. Darby Allin. Where is he at when it's time to re-up? Like, is he a guy that gets more money? Is he a guy that gets asked to resign, but is either flat or maybe a little less? I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying one way or the other, but it'd be a fun discussion to have. Yeah,
I would say it'd be good to do like our opinions, and then if we are trying to be in the mind of Tony Khan, the way that we see how they're used on TV, like my like, as an example, Darby, my opinion's different than what I think Tony Khan's is from like a value to me. So that'd be an interesting take on what we
next week on the Fireside Chat, folks. Tune in. That will be a decent chunk of the show.
I'll make a note just so we.
Oh man, look at God, make the note. So continuing with Dynamite, John Moxley against Takeshita, I believe is how it's his last name is pronounced.
Takeshita.
What do you have it as?
Takeshita.
Takeshita, right?
Yeah, that's the Anglo version of it. I think Javier would tell us different. I think Bruce Hazel would also tell us different. But that's like the AEW pronunciation. That's like the Justin Roberts. Okay. In the Excalibur pronunciation.
Okay, good to know. Either way, I thought that was a hell of a match. I like that kind of a wrestling match to begin with. Like, nothing against Young Bucks matches. I like those too, but I'm preferable to like this type of style. And I just think that match is like why John Moxley's name is going to be in the conversation at the end of the year for Wrestler of the Year. I mean, he's able to pull that out of a lot of different types of talents. And if you look at his AEW run this year and what he's done on the independent scene, it's pretty damn impressive. And I think he's kind of clicking on all cylinders, where a year ago at this time, he kind of like flatlined out, as like just kind of plateaued as far as the type of match that he was having. I think it kind of lacked intensity at times, but now there seems to be a renewed effort to really lay that stuff in, the like live kind of the character in the Blackpool Combat Club, and you're getting some just hell of a run of matches, and it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, I think obvious reasons why this time last year John Moxley was kind of
sure,
plateauing.
yeah.
So I think that's like just a credit to him as a human being,
Yep.
and all of that. So, but yeah, I agree, and I think I even wrote in my report last night that like if you didn't like that match, like I don't know if wrestling is for you. Like that's like kind of a through line of like if you like professional wrestling for any reason, you kind of have to love that match. And like if you look at the bookends of the show, the Wardlow Orange Cassidy match, I really enjoyed. I can see a lot of people not liking the first commercial, like before the first break. Like they probably were like, "This is BS." I enjoyed it. Same thing with the tag team match. They probably a majority of people out there who think like, "Hey, this is like total flippy BS." And I'm going to go listen to Jim Cornette and complain about this, like that, which is fine. Like it's not for me, but like that's a
sure.
A segment of the population of the wrestling fan base feels that way. But like if there's anyone out there that didn't like that, like I don't know what to tell you. Like it's probably not for you. So yeah, I mean, and one thing with Moxley, like I think Tony Khan might be in a little bit of a pickle here too, if it's hot take number 2 here. But like if CM Punk comes back, let's say it's all out, CM Punk John Moxley is the main event. That's definitely the biggest main event in AEW pay-per-view history, in my opinion.
Yep.
But also, like, I don't know. Like, can he beat him and be a face after that? Like, Moxley is, like, killing it. And if Punk goes in there and has, like, the 7th best match of Moxley's run here, which is, like, if he'd have, like, 10 matches and it's the 7th best one, which I think is possible, with a Punk style, I don't know. But also, can he beat Punk? And like that's his run is like literally he had one match tag. Like that's a tough spot. So I don't know what happens.
That is a tough spot.
Maybe you have him do something heel-ish to beat Moxley and then be a heel. But then like I don't know. So I just think like that's like a huge story for the fall to be prepared for.
Yeah, and there were some. Okay, so there were some spoilers going around. Not spoilers. So if you want no idea of any kind of future AEW stuff, stop listening for 12 seconds. But there was a graphic that aired on television last night for All Out that kind of you could look at it and go, that was a mistake. Like for one thing, it had the belts on Swerve and Keith Lee, the tag team title belts, which obviously should not have happened if you gave away that finish. But if you kind of stipulate that, okay, that's there's other things in that picture that you could pull out of it and kind of wonder about from a spoiler perspective. So you're right, man.
I didn't see it. You have to tell me off air if you don't want to. If you don't want to.
Yeah, I'll tell you off air
because that's super interesting.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to like spoil other things. But I say that I kind of like digress with that, pivoted the conversation that way. But my point was that is a huge story. I mean, especially if John Moxley continues to like be hot from now until then, like, because I think there's some momentum there right now that you can sense. And it's like, all right, so what are you going to do? You're going to just squash that? Like, because Punk was the plan. This is where Tony Khan, has to look at the business and just make a call. Like, hey, like, okay, this was the plan, but now it's not.
Yeah.
That's going to be really interesting to see him
for sure.
to navigate that. It's great. Do you think John Moxley should win Wrestler of the Year?
I mean, it's July, but
checking halfway in.
Yeah, I mean, certainly from a North American perspective, I don't even think there's anyone in Japan that I would put in that spot now because they've had kind of up and down. Maybe Jay White would be up there too, just from what he's done in Impact and Forbidden Door and all that stuff, and almost killed Adam Cole for real.
Yes.
But yeah, I would say pretty easily, yeah, especially Roman hasn't worked a ton.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, as of right now, I would say so.
Cool. All right, I got a couple of rapid fire topics to toss at you, or unless you got anything else on Dynamite.
No, I mean, again, I liked it. One thing on Dynamite before we go, I thought the show was mature, but not in like a edgy way. I thought it was mature in like the intensity that most of the stories had. So like Claudio and Jake Hager was kind of a throwaway, but it felt adult and like,
Yeah.
hey, this is, and they like the way he presented Claudio, like he's doing the same Cesaro stuff, but like the power bomb at the end. I don't know, just all it framed him as an important person, and and it wasn't just like a squash match, like the Luchasaurus thing, which was fine too. But and then just like the Kingston Jericho stuff, I know they're selling a main event, but like those two guys are dead serious, and like everyone, like the JAS guys are kind of jokes around them, but like to build to the main event next week is just something that we don't see a ton in AEW. So I just wanted to it just felt like a mature show from like here's the mission. I think AEW is good at that when it wants to be, and it's also bad when it wants to be too on that stuff. But I just thought the way the whole show worked in like a 2-week build is like really strong for AEW. Like their post pay-per-view stuff when they have these like in the middle of an island special events, and then typically like the Pent Ultimate Go Home show are all like their strongest shows. So just wanted to like flag that for everybody, at least in my opinion.
I know. I think you're right. I think it was mature. I think it was buttoned up. I think, it gave time to stories that either needed it to get to the next level or needed it as like a go home, which like the Jericho Kingston thing was. And I also thought it also had the moments like the Luchasaurus thing, which for him and where that character is right now, it's smart. I think it's smart to define him that way. If he was going out there and having like 12-minute matches, even if they were really good, I don't think he needs that right now to establish himself as a character. He needs to be dominant. He needs to just start, mowing these people down. And then you can get into those matches later on. So I thought it was a smart show in that way too. All right, so rapid fire topics here, and then we will bounce. So Big E today kind of had it was not a sad interview because Big E with TMZ Sports this morning was very in great spirits and very positive, and all of that, like just very positive given his circumstances. But he broached the subject of not, never wrestling again, because of the neck injury he sustained. He's going to be at SummerSlam for the WWE in a scout coach perspective at a tryout that they're doing. But the interview was sad in that you're hearing from a guy who's clearly like thinking about, what if I never do this again? And it was kind of jarring to me. I was like, wow, like, yes, this injury happened. The guy fell on his damn neck, and now he might never wrestle again. So my question is, I just want to kind of get your thoughts on that point. And, what do you think Big E can do for WWE if he's out of the ring? Because I still think he can contribute in a lot of ways, like not as like an authority figure, or I guess maybe, but as like an ambassador of the brand, he'd be pretty damn effective.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, he does have value, but yeah, I mean, the thing it makes me think of is like a wide perspective of like in 2022, we pretty much think any injury is like, oh, you're back within like 9 to 12 months, no matter like max for anything, including breaking your neck. And, it's just, it's just it's that realization that like not everything can be fixed with surgery and with metal bolts and braces in your neck. And then like, look at Kurt Angle, right? Like maybe he should have hung it up.
Right.
And like for his own well-being, and maybe Big E is thinking about stuff like that. Like maybe he could come back, but like, is it worth it? Is all that stuff. So that's like, it's bittersweet because if he can, especially like if he can make a good living still and like not work in the ring and he's happy that way, like that's what I would want for him as a human being. Then it's sad for us because like, he had the brief title run and he was kind of on the upside, and he's a guy. I mean, look at Lashley, who's in his mid 40s and still just killing it. And you'd see that for Big E as that guy who could be kind of that legacy big guy who can talk and do everything the WWE wants and just be that guy. And he could be a, absolute legend by the end of his career. And we could still have that, but yeah, it's just, disappointing. It just kind of gives you that reality of like, what's going on in the ring night in, night out, and to do all that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what the perspective is. I see in the commentary, we got commentary. I think,
commentary. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, I wouldn't wish that on anybody to be on commentary in WWE from just like a work standpoint, like having a guy yell in your ear while you're trying to talk. Like it'd be like if me and you were talking and there was someone just like telling us words to say as we're about to say. I just don't know how you can like operate and talk like that. But, all the stuff like, I don't know. I mean, he's such a entertaining guy outside of the ring. It's like his biggest strength anyway, in my opinion. I think he's a good wrestler, but his personality and what he does outside the ring is more valuable. So I think there'll be something for him. I think it'd be something that's a little bit different than what we have seen recently. But if he's a guy who can maybe deliver some offense occasionally and not take offense, he could be like a manager valet that could potentially, throw someone through a table every so often and get a big pop at a big event or whatever. It depends on what his health is. But yeah, hopefully he can come back and wrestle. And I think he'd have a huge pop and he could be a key guy in the world title scene. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I answered your question there.
No, yeah, you did. I'm interested. I mean, it's interesting, and you're right. I mean, obviously his well-being and happiness is first and foremost. But I still think he had a lot to give. And then you factor in the New Day, which is gonna go down as one of the best factions in WWE history. I mean, the longevity alone, which I think at times has overstayed its welcome for sure.
Yeah.
But you can't. I mean, you still can't take anything away from those guys. I mean, they delivered for a long time. And then we'll close on Sasha Banks. There's still mixed reporting as far as whether or not she's actually been released from her contract.
Mm-hmm.
But yesterday, she was announced as a guest for C2E2 here in Chicago. And she autograph signing and like photos with fans. Pretty pricey, but deservedly so.
Yeah.
And then today, Fightful reported that they heard from sources that run A, wrestling conventions, and B, independent wrestling promotions that said that she's not accepting any bookings until January 1 of 2023. So that leads me to think that she's still under contract and but I mean, there's no reason for me to think that because she could certainly just want to just take a break, right? But knowing that she's at C2E2 and knowing that her contract is expiring soon, fast forward to January 1, 2023, do you think she's repairs things with Vince, or does she bounce? Because she's got time for both.
Yeah. So my first question, just for mainly the audience, for perpetuity's sake, what's her listed name at C2E2?
Mercedes Vernado.
Okay, yeah. So that tells you a lot, I would say. Yep. She's not using her WWE name. So that tells you more likely that, I mean, if she's able to do that, she's probably not under contract. Is how I would read it. So just keep that in mind. Or it could be like, you can do these things. Like she could do a Twitch stream. She could do an OnlyFans. She could do this as an example of things that they used to be able to do, but then couldn't, and then kind of is hybrid. So maybe it's like that in the contract. Anyway. To your main point.
But you can't wrestle a match though. Yeah.
Correct. It could be that weird, like, hey, you're not compete. We'll let you out, but you're not able to wrestle on television. You're not allowed to wrestle for another company under any name until this date. It's probably what is going on. So, yeah, I mean, you want me
to hold on real quick. That's an important nuance because, and admittedly, I didn't catch that with my analysis. Like that's spot on because I was looking at it from like just the wrestling standpoint, but you're right though in that it doesn't have to be that way. They could say, hey, fine, you're out, and you can do whatever you want. If you want to go do movies, go ahead, but you're not wrestling and you're not appearing at StarCast in Nashville either. You know what I mean? Like that's good stuff.
So, and then on that, I hope Vince is not in control of the company personally by January 1st, or has that decision to make. But let's say he is, then, I think he would certainly, he's proven in the past that he's willing to overlook anything for what's good for business. Her coming out at the Royal Rumble is great for business. Her coming out for a WrestleMania thing like Cody did this year is great for business. So I think it's certainly a yes on that side. On her side, who knows? Could be, I don't know what was the final straw. Obviously, this is a series of things that caused this disillusionment. But if she's going to get equal money from AEW and can kind of do it more the way she wants, or Tony Khan is going to bend over backwards for her more than WWE is going to do, I can see that being very desirable. We'll see if Tony Khan has the stomach to invest in the women's division like he has not yet. So I think that's a big thing too, but I would say more likely not being part of WWE for quite a while. I mean, I don't ever put anyone past returning for that spot. If we see CM Punk wrestle at 55 years old for a WrestleMania thing, I wouldn't be shocked. And that's like the farthest thing away, especially now that he's back. So her being back at some point, likely. Her being back, by January next year, unlikely, would be my thoughts.
Good stuff. I mean, we can maybe even factor this into our conversation next week, but like Sasha Banks is somebody that I think, although I thought this about Adam Cole and Daniel Bryan Danielson, but I think for some reason Sasha like sticks out differently, where she like could genuinely bring eyeballs to that AEW product. I think that there's a lot of WWE Sasha Banks fans that don't watch AEW that might to watch her do her thing.
Mm-hmm.
More so than Cole, because Cole kind of just lived on NXT, and even more so than Danielson, because Danielson had, he's a huge pro wrestling star, but not in the same way that Sasha Banks is. I think they're different types of acts. But Sasha Banks could very well be a needle mover for Tony Khan that he would have to pay like big bucks for.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, I think there's few people that have the hardcore fans. I would just do it if there's a way to search Twitter for the amount of parentheses wrestler name fan, blah, all those fake Twitter accounts that are just like Sasha fans 37.123 whatever. She might have the most.
My secret account.
Oh yeah, your burner accounts. But like I would say she probably is the number one in that capacity, at least on like wrestling stuff, and that's like not nothing. It's kind of a cringy underbelly of the business, if I can say here on the internet. But that is important. I mean, I think you put her, Roman, Seth, Becky.
Becky, definitely. I would say Becky over Seth.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just trying to think like Roman and Seth are just always in my mind. Seth would have a similar to Moxley, maybe a little less on the needle movement. But like, I mean, she's top 3 in my opinion of people that were associated with WWE currently that are not legends. Randy Orton would be in that list. So yeah, there's not much. And I think if you saw, if she premiered on AEW early January, I'd be shocked if it's good. If not, like a month later, there's not 100,000 new viewers to AEW or something in that range. I think, and that's worth anything to Tony Khan. That's worth more. That's CM Punk type contract you're talking about, I would say.
Well, and I mean, maybe even more than that. I think there's an argument that she could be more valuable than CM Punk to the company because of what she actually brings to the table today. And I think that was kind of unknown with Punk outside of the nostalgia around him.
And if I were Tony Khan, I'd be real petty if the MJF stuff is real, and I would have her change her name. She could be Mercedes, but she'd have to have a J middle name and an F last name. Yes. And I would pay her what MJF wanted and be like, hey, I paid an MJF.
MJF, yeah.
If I was petty, if I was a petty billionaire, that's exactly what I would do. So just know if I ever become a petty billionaire, that's totally. Okay. If it seems like Tyler is doing this on purpose, it is. So just for the record of the internet.
Mark it July 14th. Oh God, I forgot the question I was going to ask. Oh well, I forgot. I'll try to remember for next week.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. Good stuff. Any final chat notes that we should take into account before we head out?
I don't think so. I think we covered it. I think it was a good week. Some news that is of interest and not just all depressing and gross human BS. We had fun, so I like that.
I do too. Thanks everybody for tuning in and being with us as always. Dr. Ross, Azan, Zach, Steven, Tracy, Frank. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the support. Tell your friends. Continue to love doing this stuff live. So just thank you very much. We've got an interview with Eric Young that's going to drop on the channel a little bit later tonight, probably like right around when Impact ends. So check that out. It was an awesome interview, maybe my favorite one to date. He was just so open and also just like talked about really cool stuff. So definitely check that out. Like, subscribe, all that fun jazz. And Tyler, I see you're wearing a Columbus as a Columbus Blue Jacket shirt.
Yes. Vintage, by the way.
That's just openly gloating me over here as a Chicago Blackhawks
and
fan.
Poor Frank, I think he's an Islanders fan.
Oh yeah,
because
I thought he's Ranger. He's a Ranger fan.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, he's fine. They're gonna probably win a cup in the next 3 years if he's still listening. But if we do hockey,
my team.
Well, yeah, you had 3 cups in like a 7-year span. I don't want to hear it.
But since then, we've had like this awful scandal that rightly rocked everybody in the organization, and like bad coaching, bad trades. Oh, I don't want to get into it. But congrats to you though, man. That's a big.
Thank you.
A big
I mean, Johnny Hockey coming to Columbus is insane. I got a season ticket package before we started. I've never done that, so it's moving the needle for the organization.
Did you get the season ticket package because of the signing, or were you going to anyway?
I was thinking about it, but it pushed me over the edge because they're going to be good, right? So,
yeah, hell yeah.
I want to see a good team. But yeah, so I would, and not to compare fandoms to your previous point there, but the Blue Jackets have won 1 playoff series in their franchise history of 22 years, and my NFL team has signed a guy who's a sexual predator for $250 million. So that's not the same scandal as what you're talking about, but like, I hear you, I feel you, but my pro teams are not good. So
then I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you.
Appreciate it.
Wear the shirt with pride, and if enough happens with the Blackhawks here, that's disgusting. There's another fan in me waiting.
There you go.
Join the Blue Jackets bandwagon.
You can at least like. Obviously, the Blackhawks can be your number 1 team, but when the playoffs come, you got to pick a team. Maybe you can pick. If the Jackets make it, you can pick the Jackets. So
easy choice.
There you go.
I'm in.
Cool.
All right, man. Well, thanks. Good show. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
Cool.
Later.
See you.